Hello, class. How are you? So we have a couple more sections left in this chapter, 3 to be exact. So as we look at this section, I anticipate lots of questions in 10.6, so let's make sure that we cover those during class. In this lesson, we're going to look at what happens when we have quadratic equations equal to 0. So I would like you to solve this equation. 3 times 0. What's 3 times 0? It's 0. Okay, so this is 0 times 2 minus 4. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Does that matter? It doesn't, because 0 times whatever is 0. Okay, negative 312 times 0. That's going to give me, 0. And then over here I have 0 times 0.25. If I have a decimal, does that matter? No, it's going to be 0. The reason that those are 0 is what's called, in math terms, the zero product property. Okay? And we're going to learn what happens with the zero product property when we are looking at factoring and when we're looking at solving and going from there. So, with that said, I want you to look at this example. This example is already factored. It's already a binomial times the binomial, and it's equal to 0. So since it's equal to 0, we need to find the numbers that would make this equal to 0 or this equal to 0. Okay? So here's how we do that. We take this and we rewrite it outside of its parentheses, and we put it equal to 0, and then we solve that using our skills from chapter 2. So let's do that. What do I have to get rid of first? Let's see, I've got a D, it's got a 2 and a 6 attached to it. My 6 being added, so I got to get rid of that first by adding a negative 6 to both sides. This will zero out. I end up with 2D and a negative 6 here. Fantastic. Now I've got to get the D by itself. Well, what's going on? Multiplication. So I have to divide. This will cancel. And D is equal to negative 3. That is one of my solutions. So if I would put negative 3 into my D here and into my D here, this would be true. Okay? All right, fantastic. Now, I also need to find out what makes this one equal to 0. So, let's solve that one. 3D minus 15 equals 0. Solve the equation. Same steps. I'm going to add 15 to both sides. I'm going to get 3D on this side because this is going to zero out. I'm going to have 15 on this side. I had to divide by 3, both sides. So D is equal to 5. So a second solution that would make this true is if I put a 5 in here and I put a 5 in here, then this would be true because this would be equal to 0 and 2D plus 6 times 0 would be equal to 0. All right, so if I were to multiply this back out, I would get a quadratic, wouldn't I? 2D times 3D gives me 6D squared. I would have a quadratic. So how many solutions do I have, and what would my graph look like? Well, I would have a negative 3 over here. I would have a 5 over here. And what would it be? It would be a U. Fantastic. So I know that from chapter 8. I know that that works. Okay, what about example 2? Where did example 2 go? Maybe. How about? Is it underneath? No. I'll edit that in just a second. Hold on. Woo! Now we're all set. All right, so what do I have to decide? Well, I need to decide, again, these are two things being multiplied together, correct? They sure are. So I need to decide what 0 times 0 is going to be. So I need to again separate this out. 3n equals 0. What makes that true? Well, if I divide this by 3 and this by 3, I get n equals 0. So that's one of my solutions. All right. And then my other solution, what do I have to do? Same thing I did before. N plus 2 equals 0. Solve that, minus 2 minus 2. And I get n equals negative 2. Huh. Would this be a quadratic? 3n times n squared would give me 3n squared. It sure would be a quadratic. And so what would my graph look like? Well, I'd have 0 as one of my solutions, negative 2 as the other solution, and I would have a parabola. All right. Excellent. Excellent, excellent. We're going to look at number 3. And then 4 and 5, we're going to do in class, I think. So let's look at number 3. Is this one factored already? It's not. Is it a parabola? It is a parabola. So since it's a parabola, how do I know that? My squared term. So since it's a parabola, I know that I have two solutions. I know I have two solutions because I've got that u here, and that makes me happy. All right, so I have to factor something out. I'm going to use my box method. I'm going to get rid of that real quick. I'm going to use my box method. So we box this bad boy up. The negative goes with the 40. Okay, what can I divide both these by? I can divide them both by 8. What about my b's? I got 2 here and 1 here. I can divide by 1. Why is it not writing? There we go. Okay, so if I divide 8b squared by 8, 8 by 8 is 1, so I don't need that 1. And then b, sure, I'll put the 1 in there for you. So 2 minus 1 is 1, so I've got 1b. Okay. Negative 40 divided by 8 gives me negative 5. And b divided by b is, oh, well, that cancels out. So there we go. So what do I have here? Well, I've got 8b times 1b minus 5, and that's equal to 0. Again, if I would multiply this in, this 8b, I would get my original problem. So, what do I have to do? Well, I got to figure out what 0 times 0 is. So I've got to put my 8b equal to 0. Divide that by 8. I don't know why my delay is here. There we go. That'll cancel. So I have b is equal to 0 divided by 8, 0. Fantastic. So that's one of my answers. And now I need to write, oh, maybe I'll use blue, the 1b minus 5, right? I need to put that equal to 0. Fantastic. I know how to solve this. I can add 5 to both sides, and I get b equals, because it's only 1b, 0 plus 5 is 5, and that's my other solution. What's my graph look like? I don't know why I drew my u first, but whatever. So this would be 0. Oh, nope. Not like that. That would be 0, and that would be 5. There we go. Now we got it. All right. Number 4 and number 5. We're going to do in class, and we're going to factor those guys out. God bless.